In this episode, we're going to be talking about some of the most cute and cuddly and soft monsters released in the 1990s. So, stick around. Hello, fellow dorks and dorkettes, and welcome to Nostalgia Syndrome. My name is Rob, and in this episode, we will be talking about cute and cuddly, and in some cases slightly disturbing, forgotten 90s Monster Plush toys. As you can tell by my hat, we are in the Halloween season, and I am super excited for what I have planned for this month and to celebrate. I love Halloween. Anyway, this episode is kind of a follow-up to an episode that I did back in 2019. 3 whole years ago. And believe me, to a 46-year-old, 3 years ago is practically a lifetime. But anyway, I went back and rewatched that episode, pretty much just to know what the heck I'm talking about, and to know what toys I had on the list, because back then I took horrible notes. So anyway, one of the things that I found really interesting was that a lot of these toys in the 80s episode actually carried over to the early 90s. I mean, they were so popular, like My Pet Monster. Even the Cuddly Uglies made their way to the 90s. But there were a new batch of critters and monsters ready to take over the throne and become the new King of the Plush monsters. Before we get to number 1, let me just say, a lot of the monsters on this list have not left any clawed footprints behind on the internet. This took a lot of hunting and searching, and even then, I haven't found that much. So, bear with me with what limited info I have. So, with that being said, let's get to number 1. Number 1 is a monster with a good cause. His name is Monster in My Closet. Not to be confused with the 80s horror movie Monster in the Closet. You have to love practical effects like this dude. Anyway, now to Monster in My Closet, released by Rumpus Corporation in 1997. Now, Monster in My Closet is a little monster pal that you could have and put him on your closet door to help keep away the bad monsters, because this dude is a good monster. I mean, you can tell by his awesome yarn hair, his yarn tail, and his really happening vest. Now, this brightly colored monster, I could hardly find any info on. What info I could find was from all online resellers. I mean, like eBay and Mercy and WorthPoint. But yeah, I couldn't find any stories or lore or anything. I mean, heck, I don't even know who the heck Rumpus Corporation is, but that's kind of a neat name. Anyway, the thing about this monster is he had a velcroed loop on the top of his head that allowed him to hang from your closet's door handle. And like the package says, he keeps away the bad monsters. And yeah, I think he can. He looks pretty cool, he looks pretty nice, and at the end of the day, he is a monster even though he's fighting for the side of good. Now, the only thing that I could find online, and of course through the resellers' websites, was that there were 2 different package designs for Monster in My Closet. One of them is your normal cardboard open box with the plush inside. We saw that a lot with a lot of plush toys. The other design for the packaging I think is really innovative and really imaginative, and it looks like a door. Now, to really nail down the whole fact that this monster is one of the good guys, Rumpus Corp included a storybook with it. Now, I don't know what is really in the storybook, but I assume it's a story about how this good monster fights off the bad ones, and that's pretty cool. I hope one day to stumble across the storybook. I mean, maybe even the stuffed animal, but the storybook really intrigues me because I'm really curious to what's inside. I really like the design of this guy. He's kind of a mixture of My Pet Monster and the Muppets, and it kind of has a very homemade feel to it with the yarn hair. So I really dig it, and yeah, I could see how this could be really beneficial to those kids that were scared of the monster in their closet. Like this guy. Number 2 on the list is another one that I could hardly find any info of. It is called the Scrunchkins, and they were released by Toy Vision in 1994. I have no recollection of these ever existing. I mean, but 1994 was the year I graduated high school, so I really wasn't in the market for new plushies or stuffed animals. At least for a year or two, there was a small window. But anyway, the Scrunchkins were a motley crew of 6 different moldable plushies. These horrific little beings boasted that they could do thousands of different facial expressions and moods. I don't think there are 1,000 different moods, but that could just be me. Anyway, we have some normal animals like a monkey and a lion, and a pig that's very reminiscent of that dude from the Power Rangers, at least in my opinion. There's also a couple nondescript animals, I think maybe frogs or lizards or something, but one of them looks like the goblin from the Spiderwick Chronicles, and I think that's pretty cool, and he definitely fits in to the monster realm. But honestly, all 6 of them do because they look downright creepy. I cannot see a kid falling all over themselves and asking their parents for one of these things. These actually seem like a punishment. If you're going to bed late at night and you see this thing looking back at you in the darkness, you're going to need the monster in my closet to help sort things out. Again, I couldn't find a lot of info on these things other than some print ads that were online and of course some listings on resellers. And believe me, time has not been very kind to the ones that are popping up on eBay and such. Their eyes are all stretched out, their mouths are in awful death-like contortions, and they're just, I love them, but they're creepy as hell. Number 3 on the list is probably the one that I could find the least info on. All I could find was that it was released sometime in the 1990s. No real date, no real info. All I have to go by are some pictures and a name, and who made them. And they are the Happy Glumps, made by Russ, you know, that upscale stuffed animal toy company. Yeah, them. Sometime in the 90s. That's all I could find. Now, from what I can see, these are plush-bodied stuffed animals with plastic heads with some really neat designs. I really like the molding on these heads and the facial expressions that they have. Now, the one thing that I was running into on the resellers that I could find selling them, they can't decide if it is a monster or a dragon. So we're going to split the difference for this episode and call them Muggins. Yeah, monster dragons. Muggins. Hey, that sounds like a cool name. Anyway, like I said, their molded plastic heads, I really dig. Now, the bodies, you know, it's kind of just like a tie-dye generic body, but the heads, they have a lot of personality. I really like this dude smiling. I think he is my favorite out of all the ones that I could find. Now, I can't even give you a real number of how many there were. I mean, I can find a few pictures here, a few pictures here, some reselling listings, but I can't really nail down how many there were, just like I can't nail down the actual year. Now, I'm sorry if I am saying Russ is like a, top-notch, high-scale stuffed animal company, but I honestly don't think I had any Russ products. They always seem to be the really awesome stuffed animals that were sold at the specialty toy stores and, card stores in my area. Like, the Carlton Card would have like a little stuffed animal section with like Russ and like expensive stuffed animals. And that's probably where you would find these. And like I said, all the listings and all the info I can find just say the 1990s. Now, if that's wrong, I apologize, but yeah, I really ran into a brick wall with this research. So have fun with these Muggins, or Happy Glumps, or whatever you want to call them. Number 4 on the list is the one that I have found the most conflicting information on. But either way, it is probably the coolest looking monsters on this list. And they are the Beastly Buddies, released by World Toy Alliance in 1997. Now, that toy company name is probably one of the best. World Toy Alliance. I mean, that just sounds awesome. And yeah, that's an alliance I want to be part of. That's a flag I would love to wave. World Toy Alliance, yeah! Let's riot! Anyway, the Beastly Buddies, like I said, there's a lot of conflicting information about these. A lot of people are saying that these are rare My Pet Monster toys, but it's not made by the company that made My Pet Monster. So I don't think that's true. It could be, but I don't think it is. Now, they do have one thing in common with My Pet Monster, other than their really awesome sculpted faces. And that is, they have chains. The chains that they come with are black, and one of the really neat things that set them apart from a lot of the other things on this list, they were battery operated, and they would growl and, I believe, talk to you, because on the package, the little kid saying, "You're my best buddy," and it looks like there's a word bubble coming out of the Beastly Buddy's mouth. So maybe they talked back, maybe the kid's just hearing voices and he's going to start chucking people into a pit, like that movie, or they just growl and that alone is good enough. Like I said, I don't know if this is part of the My Pet Monster universe, or if American Greetings sold off the rights to this, Toy Alliance group. But the only thing that I can find about My Pet Monster being sold was in 2012 to Saban. That would have been interesting, like a live-action Power Rangers-esque My Pet Monster show. That would have been cool. But anyway, I don't think these are a rare My Pet Monster. I think people were just using that to try to drum up sales. Really high sales, mind you. I mean, multiple hundreds of dollars. I mean, I saw some listings for $400, $500. It's crazy. Now, like I said, this is a wonderful looking monster toy, and I'm sure people will pay that price because of how great it looks, but that's definitely out of my budget. Another toy line's name that I see tossed around with these is the Los Tremblors. Sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm horrible at Spanish. But the Los Tremblors stuffed animals are equally as awesome, and one day I will talk about them as well. But again, I don't think it's part of that toy line either, because they look vastly different. I think this is a monster all unto itself, and it's awesome for it. Number 5 on the list comes from Hasbro in the year 1991, and these are the Beastly Bears. See the theme? Beastly Buddies, Beastly Bear... Wait a minute. These look awfully familiar. Oh, Hasbro trying to pull a fast one. Anyway, this is not number 5. This is now an honorable mention, and we will travel back in time 3 years to when I talked about them in the 80s edition of this episode. The Werebears. These didn't make it to the list because they were only released in the UK. They came out in 1983. They were created by George Nicholas, who was a cartoonist, an illustrator, a muralist, an author, and a philanthropist, a rich person. He created the Werebears so that boys could have a teddy bear without being bullied. Pretty good idea. They were created to look like a normal teddy bear with a kind of flip-out feature in their heads that would release their monstrous werebear side. 4 bears were originally released in 1983, and they came with a cassette tape, which was really cool. On one side, you would have the story of the Werebears and where they came from, and on the other side, you had a story about the individual character that you had. Now, let me grab my notes so I can read this properly, because it's pretty darn cool. The Werebear adventure begins near the fictional village of Munchin Lunchin, a tiny place in a remote corner of Bavaria, where time seems to have stood still. The bears were created by kindly old toy maker Baron Egon Baconburger, who lives in Castle Casserole. But the Baron fell victim to an ancient curse on his family that changed him into a werewolf. And somehow he passed on the curse to the 4 teddy bears. Hence, they became Werebears. Now the bears have got themselves hopelessly lost in the forest, and the Baron desperately needs to find them before his secret is discovered. The Baron and the bears may look scary, but they are still innocent and good-hearted inside. However, there are darker forces to be reckoned with. Anything might happen in the forest beyond Munchin Lunchin, because it is the enchanted domain of the horrible Witch Hazel. Her hideous terror Teds and other assorted nasties. Later on, they released the Terror Teds, which were the bad guy versions of the Werebears. Other than that, for a few years it was very popular, but it became dormant, and recently, well, a few years ago, they began trying to re-release them. Maybe you'd have luck searching down one of the new Werebears. The new number 5 in this episode are the Universal Monsters, released by Stuffins in 1999. Now, just seeing that year of 1999, it does not seem old to me. It does not seem forgotten to me. Because I was an adult then, and living my life and working a job and paying my bills. But honestly, that's like 23 years ago. How crazy is that? Anyway, these Universal Monster toys, 6 in total, are really cute and really cool. And it's 6 of the top tier Universal Monsters. We had all the greats in cute, cuddly form. We had Dracula, the creature from the Black Lagoon, or Gillman as his friends call him, the werewolf, Frankenstein's monster, the bride of Frankenstein's monster, and the mummy. I mean, they are so cute and cuddly, you almost forget that they are cold-blooded killers. They are so cute and cuddly, you almost forget that they are cold-blooded killers. Now, these stuffed animals, I do remember seeing a lot, actually. I mean, these are actually, like, little trinkets that you would see at some of your bigger convenience store gas stations. I mean, they were everywhere, and I honestly don't know whatever happened to them. They seemed to poof and disappear one day, and from what I can see online, the resale of them isn't really that bad. I mean, you could probably score them for about $10 a piece, and that's really good. I mean, Universal Monsters have a universal appeal. I mean, they are classic, they are timeless, they are awesome. So to get some of these timeless artifacts from the vintage year of 1999 for $10 is a really good deal. Anyway, folks, this was a look at 6 forgotten 90s Monster Plush toys, with one honorable mention of that tricky Hasbro trying to sell, you know, something from the 80s from another country here in the 90s. Tricky, but that's kind of Hasbro's MO. I mean, where do you think Transformers came from? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. And let me just say a quick note that I am using new lights that were provided to me by the company Olafus. And I mentioned them in the Dirty Laundry episode that they were going to set me up with these lights, and, you know, I just had to do a review for them. So that'll be coming shortly. But if anything looks off with these lights, it's only because there are so many different options and variations that, yeah, I'm just trying to find the one that works the best. So this was my first attempt at it, so hopefully it looks good, and if not, I have definitely 1,000 more options to tweak it and get it to look perfect. Anyway, thanks for stopping by, and welcome to the Halloween season here at my side of the laundry room. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you got something to say, please leave a comment. I love reading them, and I love getting back to everybody. And if you're new around here and you enjoyed this, or any of the episodes that YouTube is recommending down here, please hit subscribe. And if you hit that little bell icon, you will be notified whenever there's a new episode. So anyway, until next time, thanks for watching. Keep being rad, stay dorky.